Okay, so as I said, I'm Brennan Shorter, and I'm going to start off this by reading you guys a letter that I wrote. It's called A Letter to a Fading Memory. Dear Sina, I thought about you today. I used to think about you a lot of days, actually, but now, not as much. You were on the cusp of adulthood, not yet 19, with so much of the world in front of you, and so much pain inside. Pain and suffering caused by me. I've tried to write this letter 1,000 times, and I'll probably rewrite it 1,000 more. But there are so many things that I wish I could say to you, so many things I wish you had heard a long time ago. But for now, I'll just say, you were loved. By so many people, you were loved. I'm just sorry that one of those people wasn't always me. I'm sorry for a lot of things. I'm sorry that you never got to graduate college. I'm sorry that our dad will never get to dance with you at your wedding. I'm sorry that you can never have children. I'm sorry that when you were 8 years old, I spoke aloud for the very first time, and you pushed me away. And when you were 18, I spoke once more, and you never spoke again. I'm sorry that you were in pain for so long and no one noticed. I'm sorry that I was the cause. I'm sorry that you had to die so that I could live. My surgery is scheduled a few short months from now. I try to imagine what it will be like not to have these two weights strapped to my chest, holding me down, but whenever I do, I can't help but think that every day I become more me, either by having this gender-confirming surgery or taking the prescribed testosterone. A little bit more of you dies. Parts of you still exist in me. I know it and I feel it, but you are starting to fade into a memory. And that is where my real apology lies. I'm sorry, Sina. I'm sorry that I'm not more sorry. I admit when you first started to go, I was happy, ecstatic. The first time someone called me sir, I relished in the thought of you being driven out of me. For 18 years, it was me that was the one slowly dying, suffocating, drowning, buried deep down inside you, where you were so afraid to look for fear of finding me. But now, my anger has faded, and I am ashamed for treating you so harshly. I know you think that I hated you, and that's why I'm doing this, slowly ridding myself of you. But I didn't, I don't, I never could. I know it's hard to understand, but the reason that you are fading is because that is what the past does. It fades a little more and a little more every day, and I hope that you can forgive me. In saving myself, I damned you, but while I feel remorse for allowing you to disappear at my expense, it is not the same as feeling regret, because I cannot, I will not, ever regret finally allowing myself to be free and to stand tall, finally allowing myself to flourish in the light of day, allowing my true self to finally live. Thank you for sacrificing yourself for me, and I promise I will be a man worth that sacrifice. I'm sorry I'm not more sorry. Sincerely, Brennan. Okay. So I'm going to start off this next part by discussing the difference between sex and gender. Sex refers to the biological difference in chromosomes, hormonal profiles, internal and external sex organs, while gender refers to attitudes, feelings, and behaviors that a given culture associates with a person's biological sex. So In other words, sex is the parts that you have, and gender is what you feel you are. There is cisgender and there is transgender. Cisgender is someone whose gender matches up with their sex that they were assigned at birth. This doesn't mean necessarily that they're normal, just more common. While transgender is an umbrella term for a person whose gender identity is different from the one that they were assigned at birth. Transgender people don't want to be and are not pretending to be men or women. Transgender people are men and women. Or both or neither, but we can kind of get more into that in a little bit. They transition in order to better reflect that internal struggle that they have to be who they are. Genderqueer is an umbrella term again for anyone who identifies as a gender besides a man or a woman. This also coincides with the umbrella term of transgender. There are many terms that can fit under the transgender umbrella, like a trans man, a trans woman, a transsexual, cross-dresser, genderqueer, bigendered, two-spirit, intersex, drag king, and drag queen. Now, all of these things can be transgender, but transgender isn't all of these things. Does that make sense? Okay, so we're going to start this next part by saying that not every transgender person's story is the same, and that we're going to be getting into a more sensitive topic. And so if anyone feels uncomfortable at all with what we're going to be talking about, feel free to leave or come back or not. It's really up to you guys. This is just a trigger warning because we're going to be talking about self-harm and suicide. So, 3 out of 7. There are there's a little more than 12 of you. 3 out of 7 is a very large statistic. It's 42%. 42% of transgender youth have at one time reported trying to either self-harm or commit suicide. It's a very large number. And I'm unfortunately one of those 3 out of 7. It's not something I don't like talking about, but it's not something I greatly enjoy talking about. But for you guys, I'll make an exception. It starts small. Your lips are too full. Your cheeks are too rounded. And then it grows into bigger thoughts. Your biceps are scrawny. Your thighs are too big. Your hips, well, those are what one would call childbearing. Too bad you're not the kind of man who wants to bear a child with his hips. Women are meant to be voluptuous and curvy. It's biological, some say. You have a woman's body, and it makes you want to die. There is desperation in every breath, the pressure growing more and more intense. Everyone preaches patience. Everyone says it just takes time. No one understands that you're tired. You're so very tired of waiting. You want these masses gone, these growths of cellulose that cling to your flesh. They grow every day like cancerous cells. You want to rip them from your body with your own two hands. They are your most powerful indicator and your most powerful trigger. They symbolize fertility and motherhood and femininity. You will never be a mother. And when you told your mother that, you know she waited until you left the room before she started to cry. So enough with patience, enough with waiting. What's a little blood when the pain is spilling over from the inside? You struggled for so long and so hard to get everyone in the world to see you as the man you know you are, that sometimes the only one who doesn't see you that way is you. And so you rip and you cut to make your image turn inside out, but it just makes the image you see inside become distorted, become a monster that bares its teeth, that rips away at your flesh like a knife. You feel like you're pretending, like you're playing dress-up and make-believe, even though you know you're not, even though you know you're not. And it makes you furious and heartbroken. You don't want to be a monster. You don't want to cut your own skin. And you certainly don't want to die. Far from it. You want to live. And you want to be free. But you don't want to be a mother. No, not a mother. So if living means waiting, then I guess you'll just have to wait. Trans youth are 3 times more likely than other LGBT youth to commit suicide. The 41% of trans youth that attempt self-harm or suicide is 9 times the average for young people. I know it's difficult and it's scary to talk about, especially when you're so afraid of saying the wrong things to your students. There's not really much that I can tell you in that regard on some magical thing that you can say to make them feel better that will make all of their pain go away. I can't give you that answer. They can't give you that answer. Nothing really can. It's just being there, and listening and supporting and just making sure that they know that someone actually cares. And like I said, it's scary because you don't really know how to handle that sort of thing. I mean, we're all very young, and none of us should have to deal with that sort of thing. No one should have to deal with that sort of thing, but the only thing I can say to you about that is just to make sure that they know that no matter what, you're not just going to give them a few words that are meant to placate them. You just want to actually make them feel better. And ways you can do that are by being an ally to any and all LGBT people. Allies, I'll give you the actual definition, are typically any non-LGBT person who supports and stands up for the rights of LGBT people. Though LGBT people can also be allies, it's not like they're discouraged from being allies for other members of the community. Ways that you can be an ally, other than being supportive, of course, which I've already mentioned several times, is asking preferred gender pronouns and names. You guys already do an amazing job with door decks. I know that several of you already ask people to write what their name is supposed to be, and if it's wrong, you immediately change that, and that's great. Kudos for you guys. And we have that little form box that I was talking to you about earlier, where when people are applying to university for housing, there's the little box that they can check for if they're all right with having an LGBT roommate. And that's another, big step forward. But these are all small little things, and it's the small little things that can really help people. I have some tips here that should help you guys, or hopefully will help you guys, about boundaries is a big thing. What is and isn't okay to ask people. Respecting a trans person's need for privacy is extremely important, because this is, well, it's obviously a very personal thing, but it's also a very embarrassing sort of thing, when people are just all on you all of the time, just like, so, oh, I heard that you're trans, when did you get surgery? When will you be getting surgery? How do you, do stuff? Like, where do you go to the bathroom? All of this stuff where it's like, okay, these are all very personal questions. Let's just not, because it's not something that you would ask other people, One big thing of respecting trans people's privacies is not outing them to people who wouldn't know. Sometimes transgender people are out to some people and they're not out to other people. Like, they're out to some friends, but they're not out to their family. And so it's very important that you're very respectful of that boundary if they're with someone new who might not know that they either are or aren't transgender. It's not good to just say, oh, like back when you used to be a chick. We don't like that at all. Outing without permission is a surefire way to cost you your relationship with that person. For not only is it embarrassing to have to explain to someone new, like, why did they say that? And you have to explain to this new person that you probably weren't going to explain this to, that, well, I'm transgender. And there's a certain risk factor involved. As terrible as that may seem, depending on the situation, they could be kicked out of their homes, they could be fired from their jobs, they could be attacked or even killed. This month alone, sorry, not this month, but last month, January, 5 transgender people were killed. And I know it doesn't seem like a lot in the grand scheme of things, but there really aren't that many transgender people, who account for not a lot of the population. So it's big when, especially since it's happening and no one's acknowledging that it's happening or that it's even a big deal. I'm going off on that. Sorry. Some statistics about this sort of thing, only 32 states in America recognize hate crimes against LGBT, and North Dakota is not one of them. Actually, only one state in the entire United States has banned the panic defense. I don't know if anyone knows what the panic defense is. No. It's basically something that you can use in court to justify murdering someone because you found out that they were either gay or transgender and you panicked and so you killed them. And it's usually used in dating situations, problems that have happened. And California is now the only state in the US that has banned this panic defense from being used in court. Historically, it has even gotten people off of murder charges, saying, well, you didn't know that they were transgender, and so of course when you found out, you naturally killed them. It's not exactly where someone's mind should go when they find out that someone is transgender. Unless you have a close personal relationship with the transgender person, it may be rude to ask what their real birth name is. They consider the name that they've chosen to be their real name, the one that they've chosen to suit their gender, if they have, done so. And to ask for their real name just kind of demeans and dehumanizes the entire process of choosing something that you want to signify who you are. And of course, I probably don't even have to tell you guys this, but avoiding transphobic slurs like tranny and she-male, very, very offensive. It's dehumanizing, it's objectifying. I also particularly hate the term it. If I ever hear someone call me it again, I'm about ready to slap somebody, because it's not cool. Story time for that, I was at work and someone called me it. It was a child, and so I forgave the small child for that because, hey, when you're like 6, you don't really know any better, so of course I corrected him. And his mother just looks at me and just, don't talk to my child like that. He can talk to you however he wants to. And it was just very, and then she talked to my manager and used it again, and my manager asked her to leave. It was all very unfortunate. Do not compare a transgender person to a non-transgender person by calling that person a real or normal girl or boy. What makes a man a real man or a woman a real woman is the way that they identify themselves, and not the way that someone else classifies their body. And of course, even if you have objections to a person's gender identity, it's up to you guys as RAs to still respect the fact that they're going through this process and to use preferred pronouns and names. Again, asking about trans people's genitals and how they have sex, I don't know. I doubt I even have to really tell you guys that, because why would you ask a cisgender person how they do that? It's just, it's not cool. If you slip up and you say she or he when you met the other, that's okay. People make mistakes. Don't ignore the situation. Make sure that you correct yourself, but don't profusely apologize and just draw attention to the entire thing and just say, oh, I'm sorry. Just correct yourself quickly and move on with the story. It happens. It's not that big of a deal. If it continuously happens, you could try practicing with yourself, talking about that person in their preferred gender, and getting used to talking to them or about them in the pronouns that they prefer. I have some resources for you guys. The Gay, Lesbian, Bisexual, and Transgender National Hotline. the Trevor Project Suicide and Crisis Prevention Line, and another national suicide prevention line. And if you guys like, I'd be able to give you those numbers in case you want to post them. There are other resources that you guys have on campus, like Safe Zone training. I know a lot of you have taken that. Level 3 gets up to gender identity, and so that's a really good one. And getting to know NDSU Pride Alliance, they're a really great resource for any LGBT person on campus. And getting to know some of the leaders might be good so that you could refer them to some of your students who have questions that you won't be able to answer. So, would anyone like to ask questions? I guarantee I've heard all of them. So, just go right ahead and say it.
Have you had to go on any like speech therapy or anything? Because I've heard like some people have done that and they talk about like the difference in like how you just present yourself and how you speak with different people and like that whole change.
Oh, for like making my voice lower and everything?
Yeah.
I've tried it for a while. It hurt my vocal cords. So I'm waiting until I start testosterone to really start doing anything. I feel like I have a pretty androgynous voice as it is. So I don't feel very many dysphoric feelings about my voice. So I haven't done much speech therapy, but I've heard that it does work for some people. Questions?
What could the NDSU community do to like raise more awareness or be more like supportive and accepting? Like if you could change something, what would you change?
Give me a I would think bringing more awareness to the Pride Alliance that we have on campus. They are a really great group of people, really great listeners, and they have a great support network. And I think if we could make sure that more people know about them and more people are not just gay, lesbian, and transgender people, but also straight allies who would be more willing to go, I think that would be a great resource to have on campus, more than it already is.
What is the transgender community like on campus? Like when you were in college here, what was it like? Did you feel like you were the only one? Were you able to find other people?
It was pretty much non-existent. Yeah, I knew 2 or 3 other people. Some of them still go here, some of them don't. There wasn't a lot of people. There's this monthly meeting of a trans support group that I only went to once, and I didn't really feel the need to go there again. And so there's more people from the surrounding area that go to that. But on campus, you know, during my first couple of years here, I didn't see anybody else who was transgender until my junior year. So it was kind of non-existent other than me.
Did you have the surgery before your freshman year, or when did you have it?
I haven't had it yet.
Okay.
No. I've had to put it off for monetary reasons. It's extremely expensive. Top chest surgery is roughly $8,000 to $10,000, and bottom surgery is, wow, that's expensive. Usually around 50 or 60. Depending on the surgeon. And testosterone itself is also fairly expensive depending on where you get it from and if you do pills or creams or injections. It's all a very expensive process.
And if you don't mind me asking, like, did you ever talk to your freshman roommate about it? Like, did you ever have to have that kind of conversation?
I did. Okay. Mostly because not just my freshman roommate, but all of my roommates. Because it was when I was first coming out that I really talked to this one roommate who was the first person that I told. And all of my roommates have been very understanding, which I'm grateful for. I lived in Burgum my sophomore year, and that was awkward because that's an all-female dorm. Sorry, residence hall. I caught myself. And so I'd be walking down the hallway, and someone who didn't know me would just be like, "Where's your escort? What are you doing here? Oh my God." Or when I'd be using the bathroom, they'd be like, "Oh, there's a boy in the bathroom." I'd just be like, "I'm trying to shower."
How about the legal process for changing your name? How long does that normally take?
It took a few months for me, and it cost about $500 because I got it done in Minnesota because that's where I was born. What you do is you file, and you pay the filing fee, and then you wait about two months before they give you a court date, and then when you get to the court date, you have to explain to the judge, that you're changing your name and why you're changing your name. And you have to bring 2 witnesses who have known you for at least 5 years or more. And it's a complicated process, and then you have to do it all over again when you want to get your gender marker changed. So that will be coming up for me soon.
Is it true that, suppose if you hadn't changed your name and you graduated, is it impossible to change that name on your diploma?
Yes, which is why I got mine changed before I graduated from college, because I wanted my diploma to say my name. That was one of the main reasons that I even changed my name as early as I did.
What's your major then? Or what was your major?
My major, I graduated with a bachelor's in criminal justice and a minor in psychology. I swear you guys can ask me anything. Even if it's embarrassing, we can turn off the camera.
Do you have any sources for if people are looking for binders or anything like that? Do you have any resources for that too?
Yes.
Because I know there's an exchange community out there.
There is. I'm in a Facebook group with these, they're called the Cool Guys in Minnesota, and they're a whole bunch of genderqueer and transgender guys. They're really great, and they're all pretty young, late teens and stuff, and so a lot of them don't have very many funds and stuff, and so sometimes we'll exchange binders, and sometimes if I get a large paycheck, I'll buy somebody one and send it to them as a present. They can be expensive though, depending on where you get it from.
What's a binder, actually?
Oh, binder, sorry. I didn't realize anyone else. I'm wearing one right now. It's for F to M transgender people, and it's here. Don't worry, I'm not stripping. And it's basically under your clothes. Think of the tightest sports bra that you can possibly imagine. Then add a layer of saran wrap and elastic, and it's just constricting all of this and just flattening it as much as possible, and it gets very warm. Kind of sweating in here. But it basically turns someone of a fairly modest chest size like myself into a guy who looks like he has some pecs and might be a little overweight. Not so much. But it just kind of straps down all of that, and then just kind of shapes it into a more manly looking thing.
Did that hurt at first, or is it
Oh, it always hurts.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You're only supposed to wear a binder for 6 to 8 hours a day, and I do not recommend this at all, but I wear mine 24 hours a day because my dysphoria is particularly high. I mentioned dysphoria, right? No? Can't believe I forgot that. Gender dysphoria is a persistent unease with having the physical characteristics of one's sex accompanied by a strong identification with the opposite sex. So when I say that I have gender dysphoria, it's an actual medical condition, actually. And it just means that I really hate the physical female aspects about myself. And I try as hard as I can to fix them, either through surgery or time down. Any other questions? Nobody? Well, if anyone's too embarrassed to ask in front of anybody else, I'm welcome. Go ahead and ask me afterwards if you want. And I have the numbers. Great. If anybody wants them, I have a whole bunch of numbers here.